October 14th, 1943, 1100 hours. Sky over Holland. First Lieutenant Thomas Mitchell, age 24, watches the P-47. Thunderbolts waggle their wings in farewell signal that pilots have come to dread. Fuel gauges reading empty, range limit reached. No choice but to turn back toward England. Escorts bank west and disappear into cloud layer, leaving 291 bombers alone in hostile sky over Europe. Target Schweinfurt ball-bearing factories deep inside Germany. Same target that killed 60 bombers just 2 months ago in August. Tom touches the photograph taped to his instrument panel. Sarah holding baby Emily, taken 6 months before deployment. Her smile frozen in black and white beside controls that vibrate with engine roar. His daughter's tiny hand reaching toward camera lens. He promised he would come home to them. Made that promise in June 1941, standing in her parents' kitchen. Made it again when Emily was born March 1942. Made it every day since. But survival odds on this mission hover near 35%. By sunset, 60 aircraft will be gone. 650 men dead, missing, or captured. Statistical probability says some will not make it home. Tom Mitchell will survive Black Thursday. Will complete 25 missions and return to Dayton and Sarah and Emily. Will live to age 76. But his co-pilot Jim Walsh will die in the seat beside him before noon today. Ball turret gunner David Ramirez will lose his left arm to German cannon fire and spend rest of his life learning to live diminished. And Tom will spend next 50 years asking why he lived when better men did not. Why random chance selected him for survival and Walsh for death. Why coming home safe became burden heavier than any bomb load carried over Germany. But understanding why requires going back. Back to Dayton, Ohio. Back to the city where aviation became American innovation and Wright brothers proved humans could fly. Back to a boy who grew up believing machines could solve any problem and courage could overcome any obstacle. Back to the moment when staying home while other men died felt like cowardice, even though his work was essential and his draft deferment legitimate. This is his story. Story of how American ingenuity and adaptation defeated rigid doctrine when doctrine killed hundreds. How one aircraft changed the course of war through innovation arriving just in time. And how surviving when others died became burden heavier than guilt should ever weigh on any man's conscience. Dayton, Ohio, March 15th, 1919. Thomas Mitchell, born to Samuel and Margaret Mitchell in the city where Wright brothers learned to fly and change human history forever. Third generation living in Dayton. Aviation was not just industry here. Was identity woven into fabric of community. Was proof that Americans could dream impossible things and make them real through engineering and determination and absolute refusal to accept limitations nature seemed to impose. Samuel Mitchell worked at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base as civilian mechanic starting 1920. Maintained aircraft engines when aviation was still young and dangerous and proving itself. Understood that machines have logic deeper than human emotion. That every problem has solution if you think methodically and refuse to panic when crisis comes. These lessons he taught his son Thomas not through lectures or sermons, but through example lived daily. Through letting young Tom watch him diagnose engine troubles by sound alone before ever touching wrench to metal. Through explaining quietly that panic kills but thinking saves lives when seconds matter. Through showing that respect for machines and understanding of physics matter more than bravado or false courage born of ignorance. Tom grew up surrounded by aircraft and history that shaped America. Watched planes take off and land at Wright Field where innovations happened. Heard stories about barnstormers and test pilots and men who pushed boundaries of what flight could achieve when others said impossible. First flew at age 14 an Army trainer with instructor who knew his father and understood that aviation passion sometimes skips generations or doubles down. Felt aircraft respond to controls through stick transmitting pressure and intention. Felt freedom that came from leaving ground behind and seeing world from perspective that birds owned but humans earned. Knew immediately and completely this was calling he would follow. Not fixing aircraft like his father, though he respected that work. Flying them, being pilot, commanding machines that defied gravity through understanding of forces invisible but absolutely real. High school passed in blur of mathematics and baseball and dreams of sky that never faded. Tom was good student without being exceptional. Better at numbers than words. Better at equations than essays. Played pitcher for Dayton Central High School baseball team. Learned to stay calm under pressure when batters crowded plate and teammates depended on control. Learn that control matters more than raw power when game is tight. That precision beats aggression when stakes are high and errors cost victories. These lessons about staying calm and thinking clearly would save his life over Germany, but he did not know that yet in high school. Just knew he loved the moment when everything depended on making right decision in seconds available before opportunity passed forever. 1935 brought something more important than baseball or mathematics or even flying dreams. Brought Catherine Sullivan. Kate to everyone who knew her. Sarah to Tom alone because he thought Catherine too formal for girl with green eyes and quiet strength. Age 15. Daughter of school teacher. Irish Catholic family with traditions and faith in Sunday dinners that lasted hours. Tom was Protestant, but families approved match because both saw clearly that good character mattered more than denomination when young people were serious about each other. Sarah had brown hair that caught sunlight and green eyes that seemed to see through pretense straight to truth. Quiet strength that reminded Tom of his mother, but softer somehow, more patient. She listened when he talked endlessly about flying and did not mock his dreams the way some girls mock boys who aim too high. Did not suggest he should be practical and study engineering at university like his mother wanted. Just believed in him when institutions would later reject him for reasons he could not control. That belief mattered more than any credential. They courted properly through high school and college years, according to standards of time and place. Sarah attended Ohio State University studying education because she wanted to teach children. Tom worked at Wright-Patterson as mechanic apprentice under his father's supervision, saving every dollar possible for flying lessons that cost more than seemed reasonable. Got private pilot license 1939 after logging required hours and passing examinations. Commercial license 1940 after more hours and more tests. Logged flying time whenever possible. Dreamed of flying for airlines or military or anywhere that would pay him to do what he loved more than anything except Sarah herself. December 1940 he proposed. Simple proposal without grand romantic gesture. Just honest question asked in her parents' living room with both families present as witnesses to promise being made. She said yes immediately without hesitation or doubt. They married June 1941 in Dayton in small ceremony at her Catholic church with Protestant minister also participating. Family and close friends attended. Reception held in church basement with coffee and cake and modest celebration. Not fancy wedding, but filled with love and hope and belief that future held good things for young couple willing to work hard and support each other through whatever challenges came. Sarah became pregnant by August, news that filled them both with joy mixed with uncertainty about timing. Tom working steadily at Wright-Patterson earning decent wage. Good job by standards of depression that still haunted memory. Essential civilian work maintaining aircraft for military preparing for war that seemed increasingly inevitable despite America's official neutrality. Draft board classified him 4F deferred because aircraft maintenance was critical to defense buildup happening across nation. When baby Helen was born, no wait, Emily was born. March 1942, Tom held his daughter for first time thinking about responsibility that now extended beyond just himself and Sarah. Thinking about future and what kind of world she would inherit. Thinking about war that had come to America just 4 months earlier when Japanese attacked Pearl Harbor and changed everything overnight. Young men were dying in Pacific fighting Japanese, preparing to die in Europe fighting Germans. Tom was safe at home in Dayton with wife and baby, an essential mom and legitimate deferment. Should have felt grateful for safety. Felt guilty instead. Last Sunday dinner before wedding happened June 1941. Week before ceremony that would join their lives officially. Sarah's aunt invited both families to her home outside Dayton. Made traditional American Sunday meal. Not fancy cooking from restaurants. Just family food done right with love and attention and ingredients that spoke of abundance. America still possessed despite economic troubles lingering from depression. Fried chicken golden and crispy from cast iron skillet. Heated over gas flame until oil shimmered exactly right. Corn on the cob with butter melting into kernels, still hot from boiling water. Mashed potatoes smooth and rich from real cream and butter and salt. Green beans from garden, still crisp and bright green. Apple pie, cooling on windowsill, filling small house with cinnamon and brown sugar and promise of sweetness after savory main meal finished. Tom sat at dining room table with Sarah and her aunt and his father Samuel. Smell filled every corner of house. Smell that meant home and safety in America and everything worth preserving against threats gathering overseas. Smell that would haunt him in England when eating powdered eggs that tasted like chalk and burnt toast and coffee that tasted like motor oil. Samuel said something during that meal that Tom would remember during every mission he flew. Every time engines roared and flak exploded and German fighters attacked. His father looked at him across table loaded with abundance and said, "Son, when you are overseas eating whatever they give you in mess hall, remember this moment. Remember what home tastes like. Remember what you are fighting for. Not abstractions, not ideas. This, family, good food, safety, freedom to sit together without fear. That is America. That is what makes us worth defending." Tom bit into chicken, crispy skin giving way to tender meat seasoned perfectly. Taste that would haunt him in England when eating rations designed for nutrition, not pleasure. Taste representing everything he risked by volunteering. Everything he might lose if luck failed over Germany. Everything worth surviving for if survival was possible. Sarah smiled at him across table. Promised she would make this exact meal every Sunday when he came home from war he had not yet joined but both knew was coming. He promised he would come home to eat it. Simple promises that carried weight neither fully understood yet. Weight of possibility that one of them might have to keep promise alone. That Sunday dinner table might have empty chair where husband and father should sit. December 1942 brought decision point that changed everything. Tom had watched war for an entire year. Watched casualty lists grow longer in newspapers. Watched newsreels showing bombers over Europe and fighters in Pacific. Understood viscerally that America needed pilots. That men his age were dying doing job Tom could do. That staying home safe while others died felt increasingly like moral failure, even though his work was essential and his deferment completely legitimate. He discussed it with Sarah one evening after putting Emily to bed. She was 9 months old, learning to walk, reaching for everything with tiny curious hands that wanted to touch and explore world. Sarah sat across from him at kitchen table in an apartment they rented, listened while he explained why he needed to volunteer despite having every reason to stay, despite having wife and baby daughter who needed him, despite having job that contributed to war effort without requiring him to risk death. Sarah did not cry immediately, did not beg him to reconsider decision. Just asked the question that mattered most. Do you believe you have to go? Not want to go, but have to go. Is this obligation you cannot escape? Tom thought about it carefully. Thought about men dying. About Emily growing up in a world where freedom was not guaranteed. About looking himself in mirror in 30 years and knowing he stayed safe while others risked everything. Finally nodded. Yes, I have to go. Cannot live with myself if I do not. Sarah's eyes filled with tears, but voice stayed steady. Then I support you. Emily and I will be here when you come home. You better come home, Tom Mitchell. You better keep that promise. He promised he would, meant it completely with every fiber of his being, had no idea how hard keeping that promise would become, how random chance would determine whether promise was kept or broken, how survival would depend less on courage or skill than on mathematics of violence he could not control. Enlistment happened fast once decision made. Army Air Forces needed pilots desperately as war expanded on multiple fronts. Tom's civilian flight time and mechanical background made him ideal candidate. Passed physical examination easily, passed aptitude tests designed to identify men who could handle stress of combat flying. Signed papers that transferred him from civilian to military life. Shipped to Randolph Field, Texas for flight training, January 1943. Left behind wife and daughter and father in city where aviation began. Carried with him photograph of Sarah holding Emily. Carried his father's compass from Great War. Carried belief that courage and skill could overcome any obstacle. War would teach him that belief was both true and insufficient. That courage without adequate doctrine gets brave men killed. Qualification on B-17. Flying Fortress happened at Maxwell Field, Alabama, May through June 1943. 4 engines instead of single, 10-man crew instead of solo, aircraft bristling with 1350 caliber machine guns and capable of carrying 6,000 pounds of bombs deep into enemy territory. Learning to fly it was learning to conduct orchestra where every musician played different instruments. Every crew member had specific role. Every station had critical responsibility. Pilot coordinated everything, made decisions that kept everyone alive or got everyone killed. Weight of that responsibility settled onto Tom's shoulders like physical burden and never left. Crew assignment was supposedly random, but bonds formed immediately anyway in a way that defied logic. Army put 10 strangers together from different backgrounds in different parts of country and told them they would live or die as unit. Somehow it worked. Somehow 10 men who had nothing in common except uniforms became brothers in weeks. Second Lieutenant James Walsh became Tom's co-pilot and best friend almost instantly despite having completely opposite personalities. Jim was age 25 from Boston, Massachusetts. Third of 7 children in an Irish Catholic family where faith and fighting spirit were equally important. Father was cop who walked beat in South Boston. Mother was nurse who worked double shifts to help feed family. Jim was loud where Tom was quiet, confident where Tom was careful, joked constantly to cover fear that everyone felt but few admitted openly. First thing he said to Tom after crew assignments were posted was simple promise that became prophecy, neither recognize. Captain, we are going to win this war, get drunk in Paris, like proper conquerors, then go home and raise families. That is the plan. That is what happens. Believe it. Tom wanted desperately to believe him. Wanted to believe survival was plan rather than hope. Wanted to believe Paris and drunken celebrations and futures with families were guaranteed rather than possibilities that might never arrive. Second Lieutenant Henry Lee navigated with precision that bordered on supernatural. 23 years old from San Francisco, California. Chinese-American whose parents owned a small grocery store in Chinatown. Graduated from Stanford University with mathematics degree that proved brilliance no one who knew him doubted. Could calculate courses and fuel consumption and wind drift in his head faster than most men could with slide rule. But faced discrimination constantly despite competence that exceeded almost everyone around him. Never complained, just did his job better than anyone else and let results speak louder than prejudice. Tom trusted him completely. Trusted that Lee would always know where they were and how to get home. That trust was earned and never betrayed. What Tom did not know until later was that Lee's parents and younger sister were in Manzanar internment camp in California. Imprisoned by same government Lee was fighting to defend. Irony was not lost on Lee. He fought anyway. Fought because America, despite flaws, was still worth defending. Fought because alternative was letting hatred and tyranny win everywhere. Fought while carrying knowledge that loyalty was questioned even while proving it daily. Second Lieutenant Michael Carter handled bombs with care that came from understanding consequences. 24 years old from Houston, Texas. Former high school history teacher who volunteered after Pearl Harbor. Careful and precise in everything he did. Took responsibility of dropping explosives seriously because understood that every bomb either shortened war and saved lives or missed target and wasted sacrifice. Told Tom once during training that he thought about his students back home every time he aimed Norden bomb site. Thought about keeping them safe by destroying German war machine that threatened to consume world. That sense of purpose kept him focused when fear might have paralyzed lesser men. His students wrote him letters constantly. Sweet letters asking when Mr. Carter was coming home. Telling him about school and homework and daily lives continuing without him. Letters that reminded him why he fought. Why precision mattered. Why coming home meant everything. Technical Sergeant Patrick Quinn was flight engineer and top turret gunner. 26 years old from Brooklyn, New York. Longshoreman before war who understood machinery and hard work and loyalty that came from working-class communities where word meant everything. Knew B-17 mechanically better than anyone Tom ever met. Could diagnose engine problems by sound alone the way Tom's father could. Could fix almost anything with whatever parts were available, an improvisation born of necessity. Kept crew laughing with constant stream of Irish jokes and working-class wisdom and commentary on absurdity of military bureaucracy. His humor was shield against terror everyone felt. His skill was reason they survived mechanical failures that killed other crews. Staff Sergeant Frank Novak operated radio, 22 years old from Chicago, Illinois. Polish-American family that maintained old country traditions while embracing new country opportunities. Played accordion in barracks when mood needed lifting. Music lifted spirits when nothing else could reach through fear and exhaustion. Quiet in conversation, but utterly dependable when action required. Kept them connected to each other and to command, into world beyond bomber that sometimes felt like only reality that existed. His calm voice on intercom during combat steadied everyone when panic threatened. His messages home to families maintained connection to reason they fought. Staff Sergeant David Ramirez manned ball turret suspended below fuselage in most vulnerable and terrifying position on entire aircraft. 19 years old from Los Angeles, California. Mexican-American. Youngest crew member. Small enough to fit in ball turret's cramped sphere where larger men could not function. Wrote his mother Rosa every single day without fail. Carried rosaries she gave him before deployment. Protected bomber from below with vigilance that came from knowing how vulnerable they were to attacks from underneath. Would lose arm on Black Thursday but survive. Would teach Tom through example that living with disability beats dying whole. Sergeant Sean Murphy and Joseph Kelly were waist gunners who covered flanks together. Murphy was 21 from Georgia. Red hair earning him nickname Red that everyone used. Natural sharpshooter who hit what he aimed at. Calm under fire in a way that suggested either courage or inability to fully grasp danger. Kelly was 21 from Minnesota. Ice hockey player who brought toughness and resilience from that sport. They developed wordless communication that let them coordinate defense without speaking. Became brothers who protected each other and entire crew. Sergeant Daniel Brooks manned tail gun in loneliest position on aircraft. 20 years old from Pennsylvania. Coal miner's son who understood hard work and danger from childhood. Youngest except Ramirez. Last line of defense against attacks from rear. Watched 6 o'clock constantly. Fearless in way that came from youth and ignorance of mortality and determination not to let crew down. Naming the aircraft became ritual with symbolic weight beyond practical necessity. Tom let everyone vote on name because aircraft belonged to all of them. Quinn suggested Brooklyn's Revenge. Ramirez suggested LA Lightning. Lee suggested something mathematical that no one understood. But Tom showed them Kate's photograph. Showed them his wife holding their daughter. Explained he was flying this entire war to get back to them. Asked if anyone objected to Sarah's courage's name for aircraft that would carry them through 25 missions or death. Silence fell over crew in moment that felt sacred despite military setting. Then Walsh spoke with unusual seriousness, replacing normal joking tone. Perfect name, Captain. We are all flying for someone. Your Sarah represents all of them. Every wife, every sweetheart, every family waiting. She stands for what we fight for. I vote yes. Every other man nodded agreement. Vote was unanimous. Sarah's face was painted on nose by crew member who had been artist before war. Photograph became talisman, symbol of what they fought for, reminder of home waiting if they survived long enough to return. August 1943 brought deployment to England, ship convoy across Atlantic, lasting 11 days of submarine scares and seasickness and crowded conditions that tested patience and sanity. Finally, Liverpool with its war-damaged docks and tired population enduring fourth year of war. Trained to East Anglia through countryside that looked peaceful despite war raging across Channel. RAF Polebrook in Bedfordshire, home of 351st Bomb Group, 8th Air Force. Nissen huts cold and damp even in summer. English weather perpetually gray and drizzling rain that soaked through everything. RAF crews who had already switched to night bombing after discovering daylight raids were suicide warned Americans directly without diplomatic softening. You will learn, they said, with certainty born of experience paid for in blood. You will learn that daylight precision bombing costs more than it achieves. That German fighters and flak destroy formations faster than you can replace aircraft and crews. Americans insisted doctrine was sound anyway. Insisted B-17 could defend itself through overlapping fields of fire from 1350 caliber machine guns. Combat box formations provided mutual protection from every angle. Theory proved by statisticians working in offices far from combat would work in practice over Germany. British pilots who knew better from bitter experience shook their heads and stopped arguing. Americans would learn same lessons British had learned. Just question was how many would die in the learning. Major Richard Blake commanded squadron with confidence that came from training and doctrine and belief that military hierarchy knew what it was doing. Explained doctrine in first briefing with absolute certainty that allowed no doubt or questions that might undermine morale. B-17. Flying Fortress has 13 50 caliber machine guns positioned for overlapping fields of fire covering every approach angle. Combat box formation provides mutual protection. Each aircraft defends others. Theory is sound, statistics prove it works. You maintain formation discipline absolutely and you survive. Break formation and you die alone. Questions. Tom raised his hand despite feeling like he should not question superior officer in front of entire squadron. Sir, what about August 17th? Reports said 60 bombers lost attacking Schweinfurt. How does that fit with doctrine working? Blake's face hardened instantly. Expression went from confident to defensive in heartbeat. Operational losses within acceptable parameters given strategic importance of target, doctrine remains sound. Mission accomplished, objective. Target was damaged significantly. Ball bearing production disrupted. Next question. But Tom saw doubt in Blake's eyes beneath defensive words. Knowledge that doctrine had serious flaws. That admitting it meant admitting command had sent men to die for broken theory that statisticians promoted despite evidence. That hundreds of deaths might have been prevented if someone in authority questioned assumptions earlier. Blake was good officer trapped by bad doctrine and chain of command that discouraged questions. Would eventually adapt when losses became unsustainable. But not before more men died, proving what British already knew through bitter experience. First combat mission came September 6, 1943. Target was Stuttgart, Germany, relatively short range. P-47, Thunderbolt escorts flew entire mission providing protection. Light opposition from German fighters. No losses from squadron. Sarah's Courage returned with minor flak damage that ground crew repaired overnight. Crew celebrated survival with drinks and backslapping and relief that combat was survivable after all the warnings and fears. Walsh declared victory over Doctrine's critics. See, Captain Doctrine works perfectly. We protect each other in formation. Germans cannot touch us when we fly tight. British were wrong about daylight bombing being impossible. Tom noticed something Walsh did not in celebration's enthusiasm. P-47s stayed with them entire mission from takeoff to landing. Escorts never left them vulnerable to concentrated attacks. What happened when fighters reached range limit and had to turn back? What happened during hours between escort departure and escort return over Germany? Those questions nagged at him, but seemed theoretical after successful first mission. Doctrine said formations could defend themselves. First mission seemed to prove doctrine worked. Why question success? September 15th brought second mission targeting Paris rail yards. Moderate opposition, one bomber lost from group, but not from their squadron. Flak damage to Sarah's Courage, but all crew members safe. Starting to feel almost routine. Starting to believe that 25 missions was achievable goal rather than impossible dream. Starting to think seriously about going home to Sarah and Emily. September 27th shattered that growing confidence completely. Target was Emden, Germany. Heavy flak-filled sky with black puffs of shrapnel that could shred aluminum like paper. 2 bombers lost from group with the all crew members killed or captured. Sarah's Courage took cannon fire from BF-109, attacking from 11 o'clock high. Holes punched through fuselage. Quinn wounded by shrapnel and superficial wound, but first blood drawn from their crew. First proof they were not invulnerable despite Doctrine's promises. That night, Quinn drank heavily. Sat with Tom outside barracks staring at stars that looked peaceful despite war raging below them. Captain, I saw that 109 coming straight at us. Closing speed had to be 500 miles per hour. Had maybe 2 seconds to react to threat. If he had aimed just 6 inches left, he would have hit cockpit directly. You and Walsh dead instantly. Rest of us die when aircraft goes down with no pilot. But he did not aim left. He missed. We are alive, this time. What about next time? How long before our luck runs out completely? Tom had no answer that would comfort or convince. Just touched Sarah's photograph, taped beside his instruments, and thought about Emily, who would turn 2 years old soon and might not remember father who did not come home from war. Thought about promise he made to return. Wondered if promise was within his power to keep, or if random chance determined everything, and courage meant nothing against mathematics of combat. October 10th brought briefing that changed everything and set in motion events leading to Black Thursday. Colonel Foster addressed assembled crews with announcement that sent chill through briefing room, despite summer heat lingering. Gentlemen, you heard about August 17th mission to Schweinfurt. 60 bombers lost. 600 men killed, missing, or captured. Some people call it failure. I call it necessary sacrifice for strategic objective. Target was ball-bearing factories. We damaged them significantly. Cost was high, but strategic value justified losses. Tom listened, thinking 60 bombers meant 600 men minimum. Families destroyed. Futures erased. Children who would grow up fatherless. How did mathematics justify that cost? How did strategic value measured in reduced ball bearing, production balance against human cost measured in lives destroyed? Foster continued, without acknowledging unspoken questions. Filling room Schweinfurt still produces nearly half of Germany's ball bearing supply, despite August raid. Without ball bearings, German tanks cannot rotate, turrets, aircraft propellers cannot spin smoothly, submarines cannot operate effectively. Destroying these factories permanently could shorten war by months, possibly years, save thousands of Allied lives in long run through strategic impact. In 4 days of October 14th, we strike Schweinfurt again with maximum force. Walsh whispered to Tom with disbelief, clear in voice. 60 bombers lost in August. Same exact target. They expect different result this time. Tom whispered back with bitter recognition. That is definition of insanity. Doing same thing, expecting different outcome. But orders were orders. Survival was now matter of luck rather than doctrine. Doctrine had failed catastrophically in August, would fail again in October. But no one with power to change it was willing to admit failure yet. Men would die, proving what should have been obvious to anyone willing to see truth. That courage alone cannot overcome bad strategy. That rigid doctrine kills when reality demands adaptation. 3 days of intense preparation followed announcement. Crews studied target photographs until they could draw Schweinfurt Industrial District from memory. 5 major ball-bearing plants clearly visible. Smokestacks in factory buildings and rail lines connecting everything. Heavily defended by 88mm flak guns positioned in rings around factories. Luftwaffe fighter bases nearby with experienced German pilots who had perfected tactics against B-17 formations during previous raids. Lee calculated distances with grim precision that eliminated any room for optimism. 420 miles from England to Schweinfurt. P-47 Thunderbolt range approximately 275 miles with current fuel capacity, meaning unescorted for 150 miles inbound, approximately 3 hours over target area, and return flight 150 miles outbound before escorts can reach us again. Total of 3 hours completely alone in German airspace against experienced enemy fighters who will refuel and rearm and attack multiple times. Quinn summarized what everyone thought, but few wanted to say aloud. 3 hours alone against Luftwaffe fighters who know exactly what they are doing. Absolutely lovely prospect for survival. Carter said quietly his students back in Texas were praying for all of them. Ramirez said his mother Rosa was lighting candles. Walsh tried to make joke, but delivery fell completely flat. Even his reliable humor could not lighten weight pressing down on everyone who understood mathematics of what was coming. October 13th, night before Black Thursday. Night before everything changed. Novak played accordion in barracks. Sad Polish folk songs his grandmother taught him. Men wrote letters home to be opened only if they did not return. Final letters saying things that could not be said during life. Tom wrote to Sarah with hands that shook slightly, despite efforts to control them. My dearest Sarah, October 13, 1943. Tomorrow we fly to Schweinfurt. Same target that cost 60 bombers in August. I will not lie to you about danger. This is most dangerous mission yet. But Sarah's courage is ready. Crew is ready. I am as ready as any man can be. If you are reading this after receiving telegram from War Department, know that I died doing what I believe was right, fighting for freedom, fighting so Emily grows up in a world without tyranny and fear. I love you more than words can express. Kiss our daughter for me. Tell her daddy loved her with all his heart. And Sarah, if I do not return, please try to forgive me for leaving you and Emily. I had to go. All my love forever, Tom. He sealed letter carefully, gave it to Chaplin with instructions to send only if he did not come back from mission. Chaplin took it without speaking, had growing stack of similar letters from other crews, knew that tomorrow some of these letters would be mailed and families would weep and futures would end before they properly began. Cost of war measured in sealed envelopes and folded flags and children who would grow up without fathers. Morning came far too soon. October 14th, 1943, day that would be remembered as Black Thursday, day when doctrine died and left American bombers defenseless over Germany. Schweinfurt, Germany, October 13th, 1943, evening approaching darkness. Major Klaus Weber, age 31, sat in Luftwaffe ready room studying reconnaissance photographs of American bomber formations. Defending Schweinfurt meant defending hometown, where he was born and raised, where his wife Greta lived with their daughter Anna, age 4, just 3 kilometers from ball-bearing factories that Americans would bomb tomorrow. Intelligence confirmed with certainty large raid expected October 14th. Same target as August 17th, when 60 American bombers fell from sky, and Luftwaffe proved daylight precision, bombing could be stopped through coordinated defense. Germans were ready this time, more ready than August. More fighters positioned, better tactics refined through experience paid for in American blood. Weber had flown combat since 1940. Battle of Britain, where Spitfires taught Luftwaffe that invincibility was myth. Eastern Front, where winter and distance consumed men and machines. North Africa, where desert heat melted resolve. 38 confirmed aerial victories painted on fuselage of his Bf-109. Elite pilot, professional warrior trained to perfection. But no joy in killing despite what propaganda claimed. Just duty performed. Just protecting homeland from invasion he genuinely believed would destroy Germany and everything he loved. His wingman, Lieutenant Hans Becker, age 23, asked a question that younger pilots always asked. Major, why do Americans keep coming in daylight when night bombing makes more tactical sense? British learned this lesson. Switched to night raids. Americans refused to learn. Weber studied reconnaissance photos showing tight American box formations designed for mutual protection. Studied them with respect, professional, gives to worthy opponent. Because they believe in precision, Hans, in destroying specific targets rather than carpet bombing entire cities and killing civilians indiscriminately. They want to hit factories and rail yards and military targets, not homes, not families. I respect that even though we are enemies. They fight with honor. Tomorrow we show them that honor demands price measured in blood. Weber kept photograph in cockpit of his Bf-109. Small photograph creased from handling. Greta and Anna smiling in summer sunlight. Taken 1941 before war consumed everything normal and replaced it with duty and death and distance. He fought to protect that smile. Same as American pilots fought to protect families back in their country. Tragedy of war was that warriors on both sides killed for love, killed to protect what they cherished most. Tomorrow Weber would shoot down bomber and kill American pilot named James Walsh without ever knowing his name or story, or that Walsh had 6 siblings in Boston waiting for brother to come home. Would not learn this until 1967. Paris Air Show, when former enemies meet as old men and discover shared humanity beneath uniforms and flags and ideologies that sent them to kill each other. Tomorrow Weber would do his duty. Americans would do theirs. Some would survive. Most would not. Mathematics favored defenders who could land and refuel and attack again. Mathematics condemned attackers flying deep into Germany with limited fuel and no fighter escort for hours. War was mathematics written in fire and blood. Weber understood this completely. Still slept poorly that night, thinking about daughter who asked when Fatih would come home, and wife who pretended not to worry but could not hide fear in eyes when he left for airfield each dawn. October 14th, 1943, 0400 hours. RAF Polbrook. Wake-up call came in darkness and fog so thick Tom could not see barracks across dispersal area. Stumbled from bunk where nightmares had prevented real sleep. Walsh already awake, sitting on edge of his bunk, staring at nothing. Usually he joked, made others laugh. This morning silent, everyone silent. Fear was presence in barracks that needed no words. Breakfast at 0445 in mess hall, packed with crews preparing for mission. Powdered eggs reconstituted with water tasted like yellow paste without flavor or texture. Just fuel disguised as food. Toast burnt on edges and somehow raw in middle despite impossible physics that should have prevented both simultaneously. Coffee tasting like motor oil and mud, and liquid desperation brewed from grounds used too many times. Tom could barely eat, stomach knotted tight with knowledge of what was coming, with memory of Samuel's words about remembering taste of home. This was not home. This was survival ration designed by people who never had to eat it. Walsh ate double portions, declaring philosophy. He lived by dying on full stomach has to be better than dying hungry. That is Irish logic tested through centuries of famine. Quinn called it morbid Irish fatalism, but tried to laugh. Sound came out wrong, forced. Nobody really laughed this morning. Chapel service at 0530, small building packed with every crew flying today. Every denomination. Protestant chaplain led prayers. Catholic priest gave blessing in Latin. Jewish rabbis said Kaddish for those about to risk everything. Tom prayed silently with desperation he had never felt before God. If you are listening, please bring us home. Bring us all home. Let me see Sarah and Emily again. Let me keep promise I made, please. Simple prayer from man who was not particularly religious in normal times. Prayer born of pure fear and desperate hope and need to believe someone controlled chaos approaching with mathematical certainty. Briefing at 0615 revealed what everyone already knew, but hearing made real. Target Schweinfurt ball-bearing plants. Expected opposition extremely heavy. Escort by P-47 Thunderbolts to Dutch coast inbound from Dutch coast outbound. Unescorted over Germany for approximately 3 hours. 291 bombers total. Maximum effort. Colonel Foster stood at front of briefing room declaring with confidence that seemed disconnected from reality. Destroying these factories will shorten war significantly and save thousands of Allied lives through strategic impact on German war production. Your sacrifice today saves thousands tomorrow. Good luck. Good hunting. Tom thought about word sacrifice. His sacrifice. His crew's sacrifice. 60 bombers sacrificed in August. How much sacrifice justified strategic target? How many widows and orphans balanced against reduced ball bearing? Production. Mathematics provided no moral answer. Just cost that someone else calculated, while families wept over folded flags. Pre-flight inspection at 0700 hours. Sarah's courage waiting in gray dawn fog. Crew performed checks with practiced efficiency born of repetition. Engines tested, guns loaded and tested. Oxygen systems checked. Bombs loaded. 12 500-pound bombs nestled in bomb bay. Lee plotted course with precision. Carter prepared Norden bomb site. Quinn checked engines one final time. Tom touched Sarah's photograph, taped beside instruments. Emily smiling, Sarah smiling. Whirled away from fog and fear and death, waiting beyond Dutch coast. Walsh climbed into co-pilot seat beside Tom. Ready, Captain, ready as we will ever be. Walsh tried to grin, but expression was forced and unconvincing. We will make it through this, too stubborn to die. Boston Irish do not quit. Tom wanted desperately to believe him. Wanted to believe courage and skill mattered more than random chance and bad doctrine. Wanted to believe that Walsh's confidence was prophecy rather than hope, disconnected from mathematics of what was coming. But deep inside knew truth. Knew that in 3 hours Walsh might be dead. That in 3 hours he himself might be dead. That courage meant nothing against 20-millimeter cannon shells traveling faster than sound and doctrine that left them defenseless for hours over Germany. Engines started at 0745. 4 Wright Cyclone radial engines roaring to life in sequence. Smoke and thunder. Sarah's courage trembling with power barely contained. Tom ran through final checklist. Oil pressure good. Hydraulics good. Electrical systems good. Everything green. Everything ready. Everything except doctrine that would fail and leave them exposed and kill 60 crews before sunset turned sky red over England with light that mocks survival. 291 bombers took off from multiple bases across East Anglia, formed up over England, in process taking nearly 2 hours of flying circles and climbing and joining formations. Combat boxes forming with aircraft stacked high squadron, middle squadron, low squadron, mutual protection through overlapping fields of fire, theory sound on paper constructed by statisticians, Reality about to demonstrate fatal flaws that theory ignored. Sarah's courage held position in middle of formation, protected above and below according to doctrine's promises. Or so theory claimed. Reality would prove otherwise within hours. They crossed English coast at 1000 hours, left safety behind. North Sea below showing whitecaps from wind. Holland ahead with occupied territory and Luftwaffe bases and Germans waiting. P-47 Thunderbolts joined formation. 50 sleep fighters escorting 291 heavy bombers. Good odds, for now. For a brief window before mathematics of fuel consumption and range reasserted iron control over what was possible. Bobby flew formation, maintaining position exactly. Followed doctrine because doctrine was all they had. Believed in system designed by men supposedly smarter with more experience and better information. That belief would shatter at 1100 hours when escorts turned back and doctrine died, leaving them alone in sky that belonged to enemy who had perfected killing flying fortresses. 1100 hours over Holland. Moment that changed everything. Tom watched P-47 Thunderbolts waggle wings in farewell. Fighter pilots had no choice. Fuel gauges showed empty. Range reached maximum. Laws of physics could not be negotiated or ignored. Escorts banked west toward England, disappearing into clouds. Left 291 bombers completely alone in the hostile airspace. Silence fell over intercom. Every crew member thinking same thought that nobody wanted to speak aloud. We are alone now. 3 hours until escorts can return. 3 hours in most dangerous airspace in world. 3 hours when survival depends on doctrine that already failed once. 1113 brought first attack that proved doctrine's failure. Brooks in tail position called out with voice tight from adrenaline. Fighters high 6 o'clock coming fast. Many fighters, more than I can count. Messerschmitt Bf-109s diving from 30,000 feet in coordinated four-ship formations. German tactics perfected through years of combat experience, paid for in blood of both sides. They knew B-17 weaknesses intimately. Knew nose was vulnerable because forward guns belonged to bombardier who could not track targets closing at 500 miles per hour combined closing speed. Knew frontal attack was key to breaking formations and killing pilots and creating chaos that made other bombers vulnerable. Knew exactly how to kill flying fortresses because they had done it 60 times just 2 months ago. Weber led his squadron in attack. Professional warrior doing QOC with no emotion except focus required for survival. They held fire with discipline until 300 yards. Close enough that missing became almost impossible. Far enough that defensive fire had not yet concentrated enough to threaten attackers significantly. Then unleashed 4 20mm cannons simultaneously from each Bf-109. Effect was absolutely catastrophic. First bomber in formation ahead of Sarah's courage took cannon shells directly into cockpit. Both pilots killed instantly. Aircraft rolled inverted without human control. Fell spinning. Broke apart in midair from structural stress. Tom watched, unable to look away. Pieces tumbling. Wings separating from fuselage. Tail sections spinning independently. Men falling. 4 parachutes bloomed white against gray sky. 6 men dead inside wreckage or knocked unconscious by impact or killed outright by cannon fire before aircraft broke apart. Mathematics of violence playing out with precision that made horror no less horrible to witness. Quinn on intercom, voice breaking with shock. Jesus Christ, did you see that? Oh, yeah. Forced calm into reply he absolutely did not feel eyes forward. Maintain formation discipline. Stay together. But horror had barely begun. This was just opening attack in a battle that would last hours, that would kill hundreds before sunset, that would prove doctrine was fatally flawed, and courage alone could not overcome bad strategy combined with inadequate technology. 1120 brought Focke-Wulf 190s attacking from flanks in mass formations. Wave after wave rolling in from 3 o'clock and 9 o'clock. 8 fighters, 10 fighters, 12 fighters attacking simultaneously from both sides. Overwhelming defensive fire through sheer numbers. Some German fighters got hit and exploded or fell trailing smoke. But for every German hit, 2 more appeared from below or above or behind. Luftwaffe had committed everything to stopping this raid, had positioned squadrons all along entire route, had coordinated refueling and rearming procedures so fresh fighters could replace exhausted ones, had turned sky over Germany into killing ground where American bombers died in steady mathematical stream. Murphy and right waist gun fired steady bursts, hot brass shell casings flying, cordite smoke choking confined space. Kelly and left waist called out small victory. Got one. FW-190 going down trailing fire. But celebration lasted seconds before three more fighters appeared where one fell. Mathematics absolutely favored defenders who could land and rearm and attack again within 30 minutes. Americans had to fly straight course deep into enemy territory with no respite possible and no reinforcement available. 11:30 brought moment Tom would replay in nightmares every night for rest of his life. 20-millimeter cannon shell punched through number 3, engine cowling. Explosions sent shrapnel through aluminum skin. Fire erupted immediately. Orange flame visible against gray sky. Tom's hand moved instantly to feathering button on instrument panel. Muscle memory from training. Stopped propeller rotation. Cut fuel flow. Activated fire suppression. Fire died after seconds that felt like hours. But engine was completely gone. Propeller feathered into wind. Now flying on 3 engines instead of 4. Speed dropped immediately, formation pulling ahead despite Tom's efforts. Physics could not be denied or negotiated. Walsh voice urgent cutting through other radio chatter. We are falling behind formation. Tom throttled remaining 3 engines to absolute maximum power. Manifold pressure entering dangerous red zone. Keep up, must keep up. If we fall behind, we die. All bomber crews knew this truth written in blood of previous missions. Stragglers were killed efficiently. Luftwaffe hunted wounded aircraft like wolves hunt injured deer from herd. Swarmed them from every angle. Overwhelmed defensive fire through coordinated attacks. Finished them methodically and moved to next target. Falling behind the formation was death sentence delivered with German efficiency. Tom coaxed every possible bit of power from 3 remaining engines. Sarah's courage shuddered with mechanical strain, but held position in formation. Barely, gap closing slowly. Every second felt like eternity measured in heartbeats and distance and mathematics of survival versus death. 11:35 brought first casualty that made war personal and immediate. Ramirez in ball turret called out with voice calm, despite pain that must have been absolutely excruciating. I am hit. Left arm. Bleeding pretty bad. Quinn responded immediately, climbing down from top turret. Can you get out of turret? Ramirez's voice steady despite shock and pain and knowledge of what shrapnel damage meant. Negative. Turret jammed from damage. Mechanism will not rotate properly. I am staying down here. Can still shoot if they come from below. Tom ordered Novak to help immediately. Frank, get down there now. Novak climbed through narrow access tube into cramped ball turret designed for 1 man. Found horror. Blood everywhere in confined space. Ramirez's left arm shredded by shrapnel from cannon shell that penetrated fuselage. Bone visible through torn flesh. Artery pumping blood with each heartbeat. Pressure would drop soon. Unconsciousness would follow. Death after that without intervention. Jesus, Mikey. Novak's voice shook. Ramirez, age 19. Voice shaking but controlled through willpower alone. Just stop the bleeding, Frank. I can still fight. Still protect crew. Novak applied tourniquet with hands made slippery by blood. Twisted until arterial flow stopped. Ramirez would lose arm below elbow once they returned to base. Would survive war but return to Los Angeles maimed at 19 years old. Would spend rest of life with prosthetic arm and phantom pain and memories of this moment frozen in time. But would live when so many others died. That counted as victory measured in lowest possible terms when alternatives were considered. 11:40 brought Walsh's death. Moment that destroyed Tom's world. Tom saw BF-109 diving from 11 o'clock high. Frontal attack aimed directly at cockpit. Weber flying it, though Tom would not learn that until 1967. Professional German ace simply doing a job he was trained to do. Tom called warning knowing it was futile Walsh fighters front. Both men saw death approaching at 500 miles per hour combined closing speed. Could not evade without leaving formation and becoming easy target. Could not shoot effectively because forward guns belonged to Bombardier and Carter was busy with navigation responsibilities. Just had to watch death approach and hope German pilot missed or got hit by defensive fire from other aircraft or made mistake. None of those things happened. Weber held fire with discipline that spoke to years of training and combat experience. 200 yards, 100 yards, 50 yards, then fired all weapons simultaneously. 20-millimeter cannon shells walked across plexiglass nose, through windscreen that shattered into 1,000 pieces, into cockpit where two pilots sat helpless. One shell hit Walsh directly in chest, exploded on impact. Walsh's body jerked violently from impact forces that no human body could withstand. Blood sprayed an arterial fountain, across instruments, across Tom's face in uniform, across throttle quadrant, across photograph of Sarah and Emily taped beside control column. Sarah's smiling face disappeared beneath spreading red stain, symbol of everything Tom fought for now covered in best friend's blood. Walsh tried to speak, mouth moved. No sound emerged except wet gurgling. Eyes wide with shock and disbelief and recognition that he was dying. That promise about drinking in Paris was lie told to make fear manageable. That he would never see Boston again, or his parents, or his 6 siblings, or anything except inside a bomber over Germany in final seconds of life. Tom screaming, "Walsh, Walsh, stay with me," but Walsh already gone. Light fading from eyes. Body slumping forward onto control column, pushing aircraft into dive. Tom grabbed Walsh's body, pushed corpse back into seat with hands shaking uncontrollably. Blood everywhere. On controls. On instruments. On everything. Best friend reduced to corpse in seconds. Random violence delivered by professional warrior who would never know name of man he killed. Quinn on intercom, voice breaking, "Captain is Walsh." Tom cut him off with voice flat and hard. Emotion locked down through iron will because showing weakness might break crew morale completely. Walsh is dead. Stay sharp. Keep fighting. We still have mission to complete. Silence-filled intercom. Everyone processing. Everyone understanding reality with new clarity. It could have been any of them. Random chance determined who lived and died. Courage meant nothing against cannon shells traveling faster than sound. Survival was mathematics and luck combined. Nothing more. Nothing less. Many of you watching this lost friends in war. Combat deaths, training accidents, time and age taking those who survived battles. How did you honor them? How did you carry their memory forward? Share your stories below. Your memories help others understand that survivor's guilt is burden. Many carried silently for decades. That coming home when friends did not creates weight that never fully lifts. Hours blurred together in nightmare that seemed endless. Noon to 1400. 2 more hours fighting to target. Luftwaffe absolutely relentless. Some German pilots flew 3 separate sorties against same bomber stream. Landed at forward bases, refueled in minutes with ground crews working efficiently, rearmed guns and cannons, took off again, attacked again. They had every advantage. Position, supply, determination to defend homeland. Americans had only courage and doctrine that was failing catastrophically. More bombers fell in steady stream. Memphis Belle II exploded when Bombay took direct hit from cannon fire. 6,000 pounds of bombs detonated simultaneously. Aircraft simply ceased to exist. Became expanding cloud of fire and debris and human remains raining down over German countryside. Liberty Lady lost entire tail section to concentrated cannon fire. Spun down in flat spin that crushed crew with G-forces. No parachutes emerged. All 10 men dead before impact with ground. Iron Resolve caught fire from incendiary rounds. Burned for agonizing minutes while men bailed out into skylit orange by flames consuming friends who could not escape. Some parachutes opened. Some did not. Watching was torture, but Tom could not look away. Could not stop counting casualties. Could not stop thinking that Sarah's courage could be next. That his name could be next on casualty list. That Emily could grow up fatherless because doctrine failed and no one with power to change it would admit failure. 1440 brought Schweinfurt at last. City appeared through clouds that had hidden it. Industrial district clearly visible below. 5 ball-bearing plants. Smokestacks rising. Factories humming. Target that cost 60 bombers in August and would cost 60 more today. Anti-aircraft guns opened fire immediately. 88-millimeter flak batteries positioned in defensive rings. Black puffs filled sky. Each burst contained ball of shrapnel that could shred aluminum like tissue paper. That could kill men instantly or wound them horribly, or disable aircraft so they limped home hours later and crashed trying to land on damaged gear. Carter called out from bombardier position in nose steady, Captain. Bomb run beginning now. Tom had to fly straight and level for 3 minutes. No evasion possible. Locked into Norden bomb sites demands for stability and precision. Every instinct screamed to dodge and weave and make aircraft difficult target, but precision bombing required steady platform. Missing target meant wasting sacrifice of everyone who died getting here. Meant mission failure. Meant men died for literally nothing. So Tom flew straight despite flak bursting, so close, aircraft shook from concussion. Despite holes appearing in wings and fuselage from shrapnel impacts. Despite Murphy calling out that he was hit by shrapnel in leg. Superficial wound but bleeding. Everyone bleeding now. Everyone damaged. Everyone wondering if they would survive next 3 minutes. Carter voice tense with concentration required for precision. Bombs away, bombs away. 12 500-pound bombs dropped from bomb bay. Sarah's courage lurched upward suddenly. 6,000 pounds lighter without bomb load. Tom banked hard immediately away from target, away from flak, toward distant England and home and Sarah and Emily. 400 miles to safety through sky still absolutely full of fighters and flak. Every mile would be bought with blood. Every minute was gamble against mathematics that heavily favored defenders. Lee provided heading with navigator's precision, course 090 magnetic. England, bearing 090, distance 380 miles. Tom turned to heading. Heading 090, let us go home, boys. But hardest part remained ahead. German fighters would continue assault until ammunition ran completely dry or fuel forced return to base. Some pilots determined enough flew 4 sorties in single day, kept attacking until physically could not continue. American bombers streaming back toward England were wounded animals. Germans hunted them with methodical violence perfected over years of experience. 1,500 to 1,700 hours became pure test of endurance and will. Sarah's courage struggled on 3 engines. Formation pulling steadily ahead despite maximum power from remaining engines. Physics could not be overcome through courage or determination. Math was math. 3 engines could not match 4. Gap widened slowly but inexorably. Quinn reported from engineer station with news Tom expected oil pressure dropping on number 2 engine. Temperature rising above normal. How long before failure? Tom asked knowing answer would not be good. Quinn honest, maybe 30 minutes, maybe 5. Cannot predict exactly. 2 engines could not maintain altitude, would descend gradually to lower altitude where German fighters dominated completely, would become easy target for pilots who specialized in finishing wounded bombers, would die like so many others unless luck changed dramatically. Brooks and Tail called out what everyone feared fighters closing from 6 o'clock. 3 FW-190s range 1,000 yards and closing. Tom told crew to stay absolutely sharp. This is it. Final test. Live or die in next few minutes. German fighters made multiple passes. Brooks and Murphy and Kelly firing continuously. Lee on navigator's gun also firing. Novak when he could. Tracers crossing in deadly web. But Germans were experienced professionals. Knew how to avoid defensive fire. Knew how to set up killing shots from angles that minimize exposure. One FW-190 pilot, particularly skilled, hit number 2 engine with perfect burst. Explosion rocked aircraft. Fire erupted. Quinn hit fire suppression system immediately. Engine died. Fire went out. But now flying on only 2 engines. Physics made continuing impossible. Tom announced what everyone knew already. We are going down. Prepare for bailout. Get ready to jump. Lee stopped him suddenly. Captain, wait. Look ahead through windscreen. Tom looked. Maybe 10 miles distant, through haze, saw most beautiful sight imaginable. P-47 Thunderbolts. Fresh fighters returning from completely different mission. Had heard distress calls on emergency frequency. Diverted from planned route to help bombers in desperate trouble. Tom radioed with voice, breaking from emotion and relief, any P-47s. This frequency, this is B-17, Sarah's courage. 3 fighters on our tail. We are heavily damaged. Wounded aboard. Need immediate assistance desperately. P-47, flight leader responded instantly with calm, professional voice. Sarah's courage, we see you clearly. Hold on, we are coming to help. Four Thunderbolts dove towards Sarah's Courage, trailing smoke from two dead engines. Engaged three FW-190s that broke off immediately. Germans knew better than to dogfight P-47s in diving attack. Fled toward bases and safety. P-47s formed protective escort around Sarah's Courage. Stayed with them until crossing English coast at 16:45 hours. P-47 leader radioed final message before departing. Sarah's Courage, you are safe now in friendly airspace. Good luck getting her down in one piece. Tom voice thick with gratitude that made speaking difficult. Thank you. You saved our lives today. We owe you everything. P-47 leader, casual, as if saving lives was routine. That is the job we signed up for. See you boys in the pub tonight. Then they were gone and Sarah's Courage limped toward Polebrook alone. Two engines barely running, hydraulics damaged. Landing gear had to be deployed manually. Brakes questionable at best, but alive, still alive against all odds. 17:45 brought landing approach. Tower cleared them for emergency landing. Crews standing by with ambulances and fire trucks. Tom lined up runway by eye because instruments damaged. Deployed gear manually, flaps down, speed barely adequate despite two dead engines. Touchdown hard, brakes barely working, aircraft rolling. Finally stopped 50 feet from runway end. Silence except for metal cooling and men breathing. Engine shut down. Tom sat in pilot seat next to Walsh's corpse frozen in death, stared at blood-covering instruments, blood-covering controls, blood-covering photograph of Sarah and Emily. Could not move, could not process surviving when Walsh did not. No reason for it, no logic, just random violence and chance. Quinn broke silence. Captain, we made it. We are home. Tom voiced distant. We made it. Walsh did not. Neither did Ramirez's arm. Neither did 60 bombers and 650 men who will never come home. We made it, but what did it cost? Ambulances arrived within minutes. Medics helped Ramirez from Ball Turret, where he had stayed throughout entire return flight. Left arm mangled beyond any possibility of repair. Would require amputation at field hospital within hours. Ramirez knew this with certainty. Age 19, crying not from physical pain, but from knowing war was over for him before it barely began. Dreams of completing missions with crew and protecting them and ending war all finished. He apologized to Tom through tears. Captain, I am so sorry. I failed you, failed the crew. Tom gripped his good shoulder with hands still shaking from adrenaline. You did not fail anyone, Davy. You fought wounded, stayed in turret with tourniquet on arm. You were incredibly brave. You are going home now. That is victory, even if it does not feel like it. Walsh's body was removed carefully from co-pilot's seat, where it had frozen during flight at altitude. Rigor mortis already setting in. Medics placed him in body bag with practiced efficiency born of too much experience. Took him to morgue. Tom watched, unable to look away. Best friend, who joked this morning about dying on full stomach, now going home in flag-draped casket. Wife would receive telegram. Parents would weep. 6 siblings would lose brother they adored. All because doctrine failed and no one with power to change it admitted failure until too late. Debriefing happened in stunned silence that filled briefing room like fog. Intelligence officers asking questions that seemed pointless. Describe enemy tactics. What worked? What failed? How many enemy aircraft destroyed? Tom's report was blunt and unfiltered. Doctrine failed catastrophically. Frontal attacks devastated formations. No escort for 3 hours meant Luftwaffe refueled, rearmed, attacked multiple times. B-17 cannot defend itself against mass coordinated attacks by experienced enemy pilots. We need long-range fighters capable of escorting us all the way, or daylight bombing becomes suicide mission. Intelligence officer wrote everything down carefully, noted it all. Thanked Tom for detailed report. Both men knew report would go up chain of command where generals would read and file and send more bombers tomorrow unescorted, because admitting doctrine failure meant admitting years of planning were fundamentally wrong. Institutional pride kills as surely as cannon shells when leaders refuse to adapt. Numbers came in over following hours painting picture of catastrophe. 60 B-17s lost. 17 more damaged beyond any possibility of repair. 77 total aircraft gone. 26% of entire strike force destroyed in single mission. 650 men dead, wounded, or captured. From 351st Bomb Group alone, 8 aircraft lost. 80 men missing, presumed dead. Dozens wounded. From Sarah's Courage crew, Walsh killed Ramirez, lost arm. Murphy wounded, but would recover. Others physically unharmed, but psychologically shattered in ways that would take decades to heal, if healing was even possible. No one slept that night. No one could close eyes without seeing Walsh die, or hearing Ramirez scream, or watching bombers explode. Survivors wandered base like ghosts, drank heavily, sat in silence, tried to process surviving when logic said they should be dead. November 1943 became month of institutional crisis. Missions continued despite losses. Empty bunks multiplied faster than replacement crews could fill them. Personal effects packed and shipped home to families who wept, receiving boxes of photographs and letters and medals that could not replace sons and husbands and fathers. Tom flew missions with new co-pilot Second Lieutenant Richard Grant, age 22, fresh from training in States. Zero combat experience. Eager and confident in a way that reminded Tom painfully of himself. Before Black Thursday taught that war was not glory but horror delivered with mathematical precision. Grant said with genuine admiration, "Captain Hayes, it is an honor to fly with you. I heard about Black Thursday. You are a hero, sir." Tom's response was harsh, cutting through illusion. "I am not hero, I am survivor. Heroes are dead in cemetery. I just got lucky when others did not." Grant would learn eventually what Tom meant. Everyone learned if they survived long enough. Those who learned became careful and methodical and haunted by ghosts that never left. Those who did not learn died quickly, still believing courage mattered more than tactics and luck. Tom's mental state deteriorated steadily through November and December. Nightmares every single night without exception. Walsh dying, Ramirez screaming, bombers exploding. Woke in cold sweat at 3 a.m. Drank heavily between missions, using alcohol to create numbness when sleep brought only terror. Quinn noticed deterioration. Lee noticed. Carter noticed. No one said anything directly because everyone understood. Fear was constant companion now. Question was not whether you were afraid, but whether you could function despite fear eating you from inside. December brought winter weather that grounded operations for days at a time. Fog and rain and snow making flying impossible. Crews waited, drank, played cards, wrote letters, tried desperately not to think about fact that spring would bring more missions, more death, more mathematics playing out with bomber crews as variables in equation, calculating acceptable losses. Tom wrote Sarah in mid-December with honesty that surprised him. "Dearest Sarah, weather has grounded us. Strange to feel grateful for snow and fog. But every day not flying is day I stay alive. We have lost so many men since Black Thursday. Squadron deployed with 30 crews, now down to 18. Replacements arrive weekly, but do not survive long enough to learn lessons that keep people alive. I have 12 missions remaining. 12 times I must roll dice and hope luck holds. I do not know if I will make it home, Sarah. I want desperately to believe I will. But every mission odds get worse, not better. I love you. I love Emily. If I do not return, please tell her I tried my best. All my love, Tom." January 6, 1944, brought change that would alter entire course of air war. Lieutenant General James Doolittle assumed command of 80th Air Force, famous for Tokyo raid in 1942. Experienced combat pilot who understood air warfare intimately from cockpit perspective. First briefing to all assembled crews was revelation. "Gentlemen, I have read every single after-action report from Black Thursday and every mission since. Current doctrine is failing catastrophically. Bomber losses are completely unsustainable. We are losing air war. I am changing strategy immediately effective today. First, change fighters no longer restricted to close escort formation. You are authorized to sweep ahead of bombers, engage enemy wherever found, pursue to complete destruction. Your job is not to hold hands with bombers, but to kill German fighters before they reach bombers. Second, change P-51. Mustang now operational and deploying to bases throughout England. Range is 1,650 miles with external drop tanks. Can escort bombers to Berlin and back. Luftwaffe will have nowhere to hide anymore. Third change. We will hunt German fighters on ground, strafe airfields, destroy aircraft before they can take off. Air superiority will not be granted by enemy. It will be taken by force through innovation and aggression. Room erupted with noise. Not quite cheering, but release of tension that had built since Black Thursday. Finally, someone in command willing to admit doctrine failed. Finally, someone willing to change strategy based on evidence. Finally, hope that surviving 25 missions might actually be possible through innovation, rather than impossible through rigid adherence to failed theory. Tom raised hands, "Sir, when do we start new tactics?" Doolittle's answer was immediate. "Next time weather clears for operations, prepare for Operation Argument. We are going to break Luftwaffe in one concentrated week. Make them pay for every aircraft they lost us." P-51 Mustang arrived at nearby fighter bases late January. Tom saw them land. Sleek, silver, beautiful aircraft that looked fast, sitting still. Met P-51 pilot at Officers Club. Captain John Mitchell, age 24 from Kansas. Former crop duster before war who understood aviation from ground up. Said simply, "I heard about Black Thursday. 60 bombers lost. That is exactly why we are here. To give you boys fighting chance at survival." Tom asked question that mattered most. "Can you really escort us all the way to Target and back?" Mitchell grinned with confidence earned through training all the way to Berlin if mission requires it. Luftwaffe is about to learn what American innovation looks like when we stop doing things the way we always did, just because that is how we always did them. Tom felt something he had not felt since October. Hope. Real hope based not on doctrine or wishful thinking, but on aircraft that could actually accomplish mission. When I was kid in Dayton, people said bomber will always get through. They were wrong. Bomber needs fighter escort. We desperately need you. Mitchell's response was promise he would keep. "We will not let you down, Captain." That is sworn oath. February 19, 1944, brought briefing for Operation Argument. Big week. Coordinated massive bombing campaign against German aircraft factories. 6 consecutive days. Maximum effort from entire 8th Air Force. Goal was destroy Luftwaffe's ability to replace combat losses. Force remaining fighters into battle where P-51s would destroy them in air. Colonel Foster explained stakes clearly. This is largest coordinated air offensive of entire war. Thousands of bombers, hundreds of fighters. We will hit them everywhere simultaneously. They cannot defend everything at once. Some of you will not return. That is mathematical certainty. But those who do return will have fundamentally changed this war. Tom had flown 11 missions since Black Thursday, 14 total, 11 remaining to complete tour. Big week meant 6 missions in 6 consecutive days, 6 times rolling dice. Odds of surviving all 6 were statistically low even with P-51 escort, but also P-51 escort all the way. Maybe odds improved enough to matter. Maybe doctrine finally worked when combined with technology adequate to task. February 20th began big week. Target Leipzig aircraft assembly plants deep in Germany. Sarah's courage in formation. Tom in left seat, Grant in right. Crew nervous, but more ready than they had been since October. Takeoff. Formation assembly. Cross North Sea. P-51s joined over Holland exactly as planned. But this time something different happened. They did not turn back at range limit. They stayed. Crossed into Germany. Stayed with formation providing constant protection. Luftwaffe attacked, but P-51s engaged immediately before German fighters could reach bombers. Dogfights erupted across entire sky. German fighters falling, some P-51s falling too in mathematics of combat, but bombers reaching target with minimal losses compared to October nightmare. Sarah's courage dropped bombs on Leipzig factories. Turned for home. P-51s still escorting. Protected them all the way back to English coast. Landed at 1700 hours. Entire crew survived mission. 0 casualties. First mission with 0 casualties since before Black Thursday changed everything. Quinn voice filled with wonder bordering on disbelief. "Captain, did you see those Mustangs work? Germans could not get anywhere near us. This changes everything." Tom allowed himself a small smile. 1 day down. 5 more to go. Let us see if we can survive entire week. 6 days blurred together in exhausting succession. Brunswick, Oschersleben, Schweinfurt again. Rostock, Regensburg. Some days brought heavy opposition. Some brought light resistance. But always P-51s were there protecting. Always fighters engaging Germans before they could reach bombers. Loss rates dropped from 25% in October to 3% in February. Crews began believing they might actually survive tours. Morale transformed completely. Hope returned, not naive hope of inexperienced crews, but realistic hope based on solid evidence that innovation and adaptation could overcome doctrine's previous failures. February 24th brought mission back to Schweinfurt, same target as Black Thursday. Tom's hands shook during briefing despite efforts to control them, memories flooding back uninvited. Walsh dying, Ramirez screaming, blood frozen on instruments at altitude. Grant asked with concern, "Captain, are you okay, Tom? Honest about fear, Schweinfurt. Have not been back since October 14th, since Walsh died." Grant tried to reassure. "We have Mustangs now, sir. Everything is different. We will be fine." Tom nodded, hoping Grant was right. "Let us hope so." Mission proceeded almost routinely. P-51s absolutely annihilated Luftwaffe opposition before German fighters could coordinate attacks. Sarah's Courage bombed Schweinfurt ball-bearing plants successfully. Returned safely to base. 3 bombers lost from entire 8th Air Force compared to 60 lost in October. That mathematical difference was what P-51 meant. That was what innovation meant. That was difference between doctrine alone and doctrine properly supported by technology adequate to mission requirements. Big Week ended February 25th with results that were staggering. American losses were 226 bombers and 28 fighters. High numbers but sustainable given strategic results achieved. German losses were 355 fighters destroyed in air combat, 100 plus destroyed on ground during strafing attacks, 100 plus irreplaceable veteran pilots killed. German aircraft production disrupted for months. Luftwaffe training program crippled by fuel shortages caused by bombing. Strategic air superiority shifting visibly and measurably to allies. Tom wrote Sarah February 28th, "Dearest Sarah, just completed 6 missions in 6 consecutive days. Lost count of bombs dropped and German fighters destroyed by our escorts. New P-51 Mustang has changed everything about air war. We are winning now. I can feel it. Germans cannot replace losses fast enough. Every mission, fewer fighters attack us with less coordination. I have 5 missions remaining to complete tour. For first time since Black Thursday, I genuinely believe I will complete tour. I believe I will come home to you and Emily. Please hold that thought. I love you both more than life itself. Tom." 5 final missions. March through May were almost routine compared to Black Thursday nightmare. Berlin, Brunswick, Friedrichshafen, Munich, Cologne, P-51 escort, an entire way every single time without exception. Luftwaffe conserving remaining strength. Germans had almost no experienced fighters left. Mathematics that heavily favored them in October now heavily favored allies. America's industrial capacity produced replacement aircraft and pilots faster than Germany could destroy them. Germany's losses could not be replaced because experienced pilots in aviation fuel and training time all ran out simultaneously. May 12, 1944, brought Mission 25. Final mission. Everyone knew. Ground crew knew. Squadron knew. Sarah's Courage nose art included 24 small bomb symbols painted carefully. Would add 25th tonight if they returned safely. Target Cologne rail yards. Routine mission by standards established over previous months. Expected losses minimal. Briefing was matter of fact. Return time predicted with confidence that would have been unimaginable in October. Mission proceeded exactly as planned. P-51 escort throughout. Light flak. No significant fighter opposition. Bomb drop successful. Turn home. Land safely at 1600 hours. Tom shut down engines for final time. Sat in cockpit. Grant said with genuine joy, "We made it, Captain. We actually made it through entire tour." Tom thought about Walsh, about Ramirez, about 60 bombers on Black Thursday, about every empty bunk and folded flag and telegram to families destroying futures. We made it. Too many did not. But sitting here breathing means something. Means doctrine can work when properly supported. Means innovation matters. Means surviving gives responsibility to make it mean something. Ground crew painted 25th bomb symbol on Sarah's courage. Squadron threw celebration party. Tom got drunk, cried openly for Walsh, for Ramirez, for everyone who died so he could live. Quinn sat beside him in darkness outside barracks. Captain, it is not your fault you survived when others did not. Tom knew logically that was true, but knowing and feeling are completely different. Why me and not them, Quinn? Why does random chance select survivors? Quinn had no answer because no answer existed that would satisfy. You did your job. You kept us alive. That is all any commander can do. Tom, voice breaking. Was it enough? Quinn, voice steady. We are here. We are alive. That is victory by any measure that matters. June 1st, 1944. Brought orders home. Tour complete. 25 missions. Rotation stateside for rest and recuperation. Tom and surviving original crew members received papers simultaneously. Grant stayed behind with new crew. Sarah's courage assigned to new pilot who would fly her until war ended or she was destroyed. Tom walked out to aircraft one final time alone. Touched nose where Sarah's face was painted. Touched each bomb symbol representing mission survived. 25 missions. Thought about Walsh, who flew first mission and died on fourth. About how aluminum and rivets and paint kept them alive through impossible odds when courage alone would have failed. Transport ship crossed Atlantic in 11 days. Reverse of deployment journey, but different men returning than left. Aged beyond their years. Seen things that could never be unseen. Changed fundamentally by violence and loss and mathematics of survival that selected them arbitrarily. June 15th arrived with New York Harbor visible. Statue of Liberty rising green against blue sky. America. Home. Safety bought with blood of 26,000 American airmen who would never see this sight. Tom stood at ship's rail thinking about Walsh, who should be standing here. About how geography separates living from dead, but memory keeps them present anyway. Guilt was constant companion now. Would be for entire rest of life. Survivor's guilt that has no cure because surviving when others died has no logic, therefore no resolution possible. June 18th, 1944. Dayton train station. Sarah waiting exactly where he knew she would be. Holding Emily, who had grown dramatically in year. Tom was gone. Emily, age 2, did not remember father clearly. Saw stranger in uniform approaching, shy-eyed, uncertain, hiding slightly behind mother's dress. Sarah crying, Tom, you are home. You are really home safe. They embraced desperately. Tom holding Sarah and Emily simultaneously. Crying, all tension of year releasing at once. All fear, all grief. Everything compressed into a single moment of reunion that felt both eternal and completely insufficient. Emily asked question children ask. Why is Mama crying? Sarah through tears. Happy tears, baby. Daddy is home from war. Tom knelt to eye level with Emily, touched her face with wonder. Hi, Emily. I am your daddy. I have been very far away fighting so you can be safe. But I am home now. I am staying home forever. Emily studied him carefully, reached out cautiously, touched ribbons on uniform. Daddy, yes, baby. Daddy is home. Emily hugged him. Tom held daughter thinking about Walsh, who would never hold children, about Ramirez, who came home maimed, about how this moment was bought with their sacrifice and he would spend rest of life trying to deserve it. First night home, everything felt completely wrong. Too quiet, too safe, too normal in ways that felt abnormal after a year of terror. Tom jumped violently at car backfire outside. Could not sleep. Nightmares of Walsh dying. Explosions, falling bombers. Woke screaming at 3 a.m. Sarah held him without speaking. Just held him when terror made sleep impossible. This would be pattern for months, for years, for rest of life actually, though nightmares would become less frequent over decades. Next morning, Sarah cooked exactly what she promised 3 years ago. Sunday dinner, same meal as June 1941. Different lifetime ago. Fried chicken crispy and golden from cast iron skillet, exactly as he remembered. Corn on cob with butter melting into kernels. Mashed potatoes smooth and rich from real cream. Apple pie still warm from oven. Cinnamon smell filling small kitchen representing everything normal, everything American, everything worth fighting for. But Tom could not eat despite hunger. Hands shaking, staring at chicken on plate. Sarah asked with concern, "What is wrong, Tom?" Tom voice hollow and distant. Walsh loved fried chicken, talked constantly about his mother's recipe, said first thing he would do after war was eat her cooking. He died before ever tasting it again. And here I am, eating this. Why do I get this when he does not? Why did I survive when better man died? Sarah took his hand gently. Because you survived. Honor him by living well, by enjoying this, by being grateful for gift of life. Tom tried, took bite of chicken, tasted exactly as he remembered from 3 years ago, but completely different now. Because Walsh's ghost sat at table. Because Ramirez lost arm. Because 650 men died on Black Thursday so Tom could eat fried chicken in Ohio kitchen. Taste of home was now taste of survival mixed with guilt. Food carried weight it never had before war. Every meal was reminder that he lived while others died. That coming home was privilege denied to thousands. That gratitude and grief were inseparable when survival was random rather than earned through merit. If you knew veterans like Tom Mitchell, men who served and came home and lived quietly without seeking recognition or speaking much about experiences, please share their stories in comments below. We want to honor greatest generation before their voices are lost forever. What story will you share? What memory will you preserve? These men deserve to be remembered, not just as statistics in history books, as fathers, brothers, sons, friends, human beings who faced impossible odds and did their duty anyway despite cost to themselves. July 1944 brought trip to Boston, visit Walsh family, Patrick and Mary Walsh. 6 siblings ranging from age 16 to 30, all wanting desperately to know how Jim died. Tom sat in their kitchen, Irish Catholic home, crosses on walls, photos of Walsh everywhere, young, smiling, full of life in photographs, dead in Tom's memory, frozen forever at moment of death. Patrick asked Tom to tell them about their son with voice that shook, please. We need to know. How did our Jimmy die? Tom chose words carefully because truth would serve no good purpose. Jim was incredibly brave. Best co-pilot I ever flew with in my life. We were on bombing run to Schweinfurt. German fighter attacked from front. Jim died very quickly. Did not suffer at all. Saved rest of crew by staying at controls until I could take over. Mary Walsh crying. Was he scared at end? Tom lied because parents needed this lie. No, ma'am. Jim was never scared. He believed completely in our mission. Believed we were fighting for freedom and everything America represents. He died for that belief with courage. Truth was, Walsh was terrified every single mission. Joked constantly to hide fear everyone felt. Died probably before feeling anything at all. But parents needed heroic narrative to make unbearable loss slightly more bearable. Tom gave them that gift, even though giving it cost him something. Patrick said something Tom would remember rest of his life. Thank you for bringing our boy home to us. Tom confused. I did not bring him home, sir. He died over Germany. Patrick gentle. You brought him home in your memory, in your testimony about his courage. That is enough for us. That is all we can have now. Tom gave them Walsh's final letter, written night before Black Thursday, to be opened only if he died. Family read together, crying, grateful for final words. Walsh's letter said what he believed. If you are reading this, I died fighting for America. I am not sad about that. I am proud. Tell my family I love them forever. Tell Tom Mitchell he was best pilot I ever flew with. Tell him to live well. That is all I ask of him. Tom left Boston carrying Walsh's words like physical weight. Live well. How does one live well when survivor's guilt crushes every breath? How does making it home when friend died become anything other than cosmic injustice without explanation? No answer existed, just imperative to try. To make survival mean something, to honor dead by refusing to waste life they were denied. August brought trip to Los Angeles. Visit Ramirez, age 20 now, home with family, missing left arm below elbow where amputation happened, living with parents, working at family friend's grocery store. Ramirez greeted Tom warmly despite everything, Captain Mitchell. You completed your tour, made it home. Tom gripped his good shoulder, because you protected us from ball turret. Davy, you saved us repeatedly. Ramirez shook head, until I got hit and left you exposed. Tom firm, you fought wounded, stayed in turret with tourniquet on arm. That was incredibly brave. They walked to nearby park. Sat on bench. Ramirez's missing arm was obvious. Tom tried not to stare but could not help noticing. Ramirez asked question that haunted both. Do you think about Black Thursday every single day? Me too. I see that 109 coming at us. Feel shrapnel hit. Smell my own blood. Then I wake up and arm is still gone. Will always be gone. Tom, voice thick with guilt. I am so sorry, Davy. Should have protected you better. Ramirez cut him off firmly. Why apologize? You did not shoot me. Germans did. War did. Not your fault at all. But I was pilot. Your safety was my responsibility as commander. Ramirez insistent with wisdom beyond his years. And you got me home alive. With one arm, yes. But alive. My mother Rosa lights candle for you every Sunday. Thanks God you brought her son home and breathing. Tom crying, I should have done more. Ramirez gripped Tom's arm with intensity. Captain, listen carefully. You did everything right. I am alive. You are alive. Walsh died, yes, but 7 of us lived. That is victory. Do not dishonor our survival by drowning in guilt that serves no one. Tom asked question haunting him. How do you live with it? Ramirez's answer was simple. By living, by working, by helping my family, by making my survival mean something instead of waste. You should do same. September brought job offer. Army Air Forces wanted Tom at Wright-Patterson as test pilot, his father's workplace. Where Tom grew up around aircraft and aviation history, Sarah asked if he would accept position. Tom uncertain, I do not know if I can fly again. Every time I see B-17, I see Walsh's blood on instruments. Hear Ramirez screaming. Sarah gentle, you do not have to fly. You can teach, design. Use your experience to help others survive what you survived. October brought decision. Tom accepted position, not as pilot, but as consultant. Worked directly with engineers designing bomber safety systems. Apply combat lessons learned in blood to save future crews from suffering same losses. First project was improved armor for cockpit protecting pilots. Tom's input was direct and specific. Protect pilots from frontal attacks. That is exactly how Walsh died. Prevent that from happening to others. Engineers designed reinforced nose armor, implemented in B-29s flying against Japan, saved lives. Each life saved justified Tom's survival a little bit more. Made Walsh's death mean something beyond random violence. Second project was better turret escape mechanisms. Tom explained Ramirez could not escape ball turret when wounded because mechanism jammed. Engineers developed improved ball turret with emergency quick release. Implemented 1945. More lives saved, more meaning extracted from horror. This became how Tom processed guilt. Through service, through preventing others from suffering what his crew suffered, through making survival mean something beyond just continuing to breathe. Family grew. Margaret, born 1946. Robert Jr., born 1948. Suburban life. Tom commuted to Wright-Patterson. Designed systems. Came home to Sarah and children. Tried to be present. Sometimes succeeded. Sometimes drifted back to October 14th, 1943, and could not return for hours. Sarah learned to recognize when he was gone mentally. Learned to give him space when needed. Learned that loving survivor meant accepting he carried pieces of war that could not be shared with anyone who was not there. Thanksgiving became annual ritual, every year without fail. Turkey, stuffing, mashed potatoes, cranberry sauce, pumpkin pie, apple pie, traditional American feast. But Tom could not eat any Thanksgiving without thinking. Walsh loved Thanksgiving, talked about his mother's cooking. Will never taste it again. Ramirez sits at different table with one arm. 650 families have empty chairs where sons and husbands and fathers should sit. Gratitude mixed with guilt every November. Thank God for blessings. Asked forgiveness for surviving when others did not. Wondered if either emotion was appropriate or if just living was enough response to gift of survival. June 1967, Paris International Air Show. Tom, age 48, attended as Wright-Patterson representative. Walking exhibition floor. Stopped at Lufthansa Airlines display. Saw older man in pilot uniform studying B-17 model with intensity. Something familiar about posture. About way, he examined aircraft with professional interest. Man turned, eyes met across display. Instant recognition, though they never met face-to-face during war. Major Klaus Weber, age 55, Lufthansa captain, former Luftwaffe ace who defended Schweinfurt. Weber recognized Tom's 8th Air Force veteran's pin on lapel. Approached carefully, American pilot, yes. 351st Bomb Group. Flew 25 missions, 43 to 44. Weber's face changed, showing recognition. I defended Schweinfurt. October 14th, 1943. Black Thursday, your people call it. Silence fell between them. Tom's heart raced. This man might have shot at Sarah's courage, might have killed Walsh with professional efficiency. Weber continued, voice thick, I flew BF-109. Frontal attacks on bomber formations, killed many American pilots that day. I am deeply sorry for men I killed. They were all brave. Every single one of you was brave coming back after August losses. Tom studied Weber's face, saw no hatred, no pride in killing, just old warrior carrying own ghosts across decades. My co-pilot died that day. Jim Walsh, age 25, Boston. Best friend I ever had. Weber, voice thick with emotion. I lost wingman Hans Becker over your bombers. Age 23, my closest friend. We both lost friends that terrible day. They stood in silence, exhibition noise fading away. Two old warriors meeting 24 years after trying to kill each other over German factories. Finally, Tom extended hand. Thomas Mitchell, Dayton, Ohio. Weber gripped it firmly. Klaus Weber, Schweinfurt, Germany. They shook hands, enemies becoming something else through time and shared understanding. Not quite friends, but men who understood sacrifice from both sides. Weber said words that freed something in Tom. We both fought for what we believed was right. War made us enemies that day. Peace makes us pilots who understand sacrifice deeply. Your friend Walsh died honorably in combat. So did my friend Becker. We honor them by living well, by never forgetting their sacrifice, by teaching next generation war's true cost so they avoid it if possible. Tom realized this was exactly what Walsh's letter meant. Live well, not drown in guilt forever, but live purposefully. Honor dead through living with meaning and purpose. They exchanged addresses. Corresponded for 28 years until Weber died 98. Tom died March 20th, 1995. Age 76. Home in Dayton where everything began. Sarah holding his hand, children and grandchildren present surrounding bed. Last words were message for those who fought beside him. Tell the crews I tried to live well. Tell Walsh I never forgot him. Tell Ramirez his sacrifice mattered. Sarah, voice breaking. They know Tom. They all know. Tom died thinking about October 14th, 1943, about 1100 hours when P-47s turned back, about Walsh dying, about Ramirez screaming, about 400 miles home on 2 engines with corpse and co-pilot seat, about miracle of survival against all odds, about weight of living when others died, about 50 years trying to make it mean something, about whether he succeeded and promised to live well. October 14th, 2024, 80th anniversary of Black Thursday. RAF Polbrook, now civilian airfield. Memorial service, historians, veterans' families, aviation enthusiasts. Emily Mitchell, age 82, attended representing father. Brought artifacts carefully preserved. Tom's flight jacket. Sarah's photograph still showing faint bloodstains from Walsh. Display showed Sarah's courage, complete combat record. 25 missions. Never failed to return from mission despite damage. Historian gave speech about Black Thursday's meaning. October 14th, 1943 was darkest day in 8th Air Force history. 60 bombers lost, 650 casualties. Doctrine failed catastrophically. But failure taught critical lessons. Forced rapid adaptation. Prioritized P-51 Mustang development and deployment. Changed fighter tactics completely. Within 4 months, air superiority shifted decisively to allies, making D-Day invasion possible. Men like Thomas Mitchell survived Black Thursday carrying tremendous guilt. Why them and not others? No satisfactory answer exists, just randomness of war. But they used survival well, designed better aircraft, taught new pilots, honored fallen through living purposefully with meaning. P-51 Mustang was technological marvel enabling victory. But men were moral marvel. They flew into impossible odds. Many died. Some survived. Those who survived made it mean something through decades of quiet service. That is legacy we remember today. Emily spoke final words. My father flew 25 missions because P-51 Mustang gave him fighting chance to survive when doctrine alone would have killed him. But he lived 50 more years because he chose deliberately to make survival mean something beyond just breathing. He designed safety systems, saving hundreds of lives. He helped others. He never forgot those who died. He carried their memory with grace and humility for 50 years. Black Thursday killed 650 men. But their deaths forced change that saved thousands after them. That is not redemption because nothing redeems war deaths. But it is meaning. And meaning is all we can reasonably ask from tragedy. My father would say, remember the fallen always. Honor the living. Learn the lessons written in blood. Never repeat the mistakes. That is how we make history matter. P-51 Mustang flew overhead. Silver against blue sky. Symbol of innovation that changed war through American ingenuity. Engine sound faded into distance. Silence returned. But story continues. Continues in every pilot who learns from Black Thursday. Continues in every aircraft designed with crew safety as highest priority. Continues in every family that exists because grandfather survived when doctrine finally worked. Continues in memory that refuses to let sacrifice become mere statistic forgotten by time. October 14th, 1943. 60 bombers fell. 650 men died. American doctrine failed. But failure taught what success never could. Adaptation matters more than rigid adherence to theory. Innovation matters when reality demands change. Long-range fighter escort matters absolutely. Lives matter more than institutional pride. P-51 Mustang arrived January 1944. By May, air superiority belonged to allies. D-Day became possible. Victory became inevitable through combination of courage and innovation. 26,000 American airmen died winning that victory over years of combat. Their sacrifice earned freedom for millions. Their legacy endures in a world they never saw but made possible through blood and courage. Thomas Mitchell flew for them, lived for them, honored them by making survival mean something through quiet decades of service. He was one crew among thousands, one survivor among millions. But his story represents all who fought, all who fell, and all who carried weight of survival with grace. Black Thursday was disaster, but disaster taught lessons that change history. That is meaning we preserve. Not glory, not redemption, just hard-earned wisdom bought with blood and carried forward by those who lived to remember, by those who refused to let sacrifice become meaningless, by those who understood surviving when others died creates obligation. Obligation to live well, to make it mean something, to never forget. Tom Mitchell met that obligation. For 50 years, every single day, until journey ended where it began, home in Dayton, where aviation became American innovation, where boy who dreamed of flying became man who learned that surviving means more than just living, means honoring dead by refusing to waste life they were denied. That is legacy worth preserving. That is story worth telling. That is memory that must not fade while anyone remains who understands what was given, what was lost, what endures despite everything.